Okay, now this couple, they are really something else. Alright, so these two are such an iconic couple from the Chinese drama Love. Now we are in love. Like their relationship was so worth watching. If you haven't watched it yet, seriously do it. But anyway, so these two characters, Da Bao and Chi Cheng, they're really hot and heavy with each other. But we all know relationships can get tough sometimes, right? These two aren't perfect and they have their own flaws and problems they have to deal with. But honestly, the way they handle their conflicts, it's just so realistic. Like it reminds me of how relationships sometimes get rocky. But the way they deal with it and the love they have for each other, it's beautiful. This story is basically about Chi Cheng, who is the kind of person who doesn't talk much, especially when he's mad. So you can imagine how hard it is for him to express his emotions. He's got this wall around him, but Da Bao, he knows how to break it down. So there was this time when these two got into a fight. Chi Cheng was late coming home and Da Bao was waiting for him with dinner on the table. But after a while, Chi Cheng still didn't show up, so Da Bao got pretty upset. I mean, it's natural to feel let down when someone doesn't keep their promises, right? Especially when you're sitting there waiting for them. The thing is, Da Bao usually talks a lot. All he could do was sit there staring at the door, hoping Chi Cheng would understand how he felt. Sometimes actions speak louder than words. But in this case, both of them needed to say something. They both got lost in their thoughts, each wondering what the other was thinking. And that's when the misunderstandings started creeping in. Like, imagine being so caught up in your own feelings that you do and even notice the person in front of you starting to cry. It's heartbreaking, and that's exactly what happened. It's sad because Chi Cheng didn't realize that Da Bao was crying until he got home. But by then, it was too late. The damage was done. Chi Cheng tried to explain, but it wasn't easy. He's not good with words, especially when his feelings are all over the place. So he ended up sounding cold and distant, and that made Da Bao push him away even more. The worst part was that Chi Cheng didn't know why Da Bao was upset. He thought everything was fine between them. So when Da Bao started blaming him without explaining, Chi Cheng got defensive. It was like they were speaking different languages. Neither of them could understand what the other was saying. The distance between them kept growing, and that hurt them both. So they stayed silent, but it wasn't the kind of silence that brings people closer. It was the silence of broken promises and unspoken feelings. And that silence echoed the pain in their hearts. It made the whole situation worse. Chi Cheng couldn't sleep. He kept tossing and turning in bed, thinking about Da Bao. His heart ached with worrying. He wondered if Da Bao was okay. But pride kept him from reaching out. Then he did something unexpected. He got out of bed, put on his clothes, and went for a walk in the rain. It was pouring heavily and he didn't have an umbrella. But that didn't matter. The rain felt good on his skin. It washed away his pride, leaving him weak and vulnerable. As he walked, his thoughts raced. He realized how much he loved Da Bao, how important he was to Chi Cheng. The thought of losing him was unbearable. So Chi Cheng decided to go to Da Bao's house. He walked under the pouring rain, step by step, getting closer to Da Bao's house. Each step was filled with hope, but also fear. What if Da Bao didn't want to see him? What if their relationship was broken beyond repair? But Chi Cheng didn't care. He had to try. He knocked on the door and his heart pounded in his chest. Every knock echoed the rhythm of his love for Da Bao. He hoped that Da Bao could hear it, hoping that Da Bao could understand. But then he heard a voice that broke his heart. It was a woman's voice, and she was telling someone to calm down. Chi Cheng hesitated, his hand frozen on the door. What if Da Bao had moved on? What if he had someone new? The thought tore through him like a shard of glass. Suddenly, the door opened and Chi Cheng looked up. There was a woman standing in front of him, and she looked at him with concern. She asked him why he was there, and Chi Cheng stammered, trying to find the words. He couldn't tell her about his relationship with Da Bao. It would be too painful, so he lied, saying he was just passing by. But the woman didn't believe him. She knew there was more to the story, and she invited him in. She asked him to wait, and then she went inside. A moment later, she came back with a tissue paper and water. And then she did something that surprised Chi Cheng. She handed him the tissue and water and told him to wipe off the rain. And then she did something that made his heart skip a beat. She touched his hand. Her touch was gentle, understanding. And in that moment, Chi Cheng felt seen. He couldn't help himself. He burst out crying. And the woman didn't pull away. She held him tight, letting him cry. And as he cried, the dam broke. As he looked around, he saw a note on the table. And when he read it, tears welled up in his eyes. It was from Da Bao, and in that note, Chi Cheng found the answer he'd been looking for. Da Bao hadn't left. He was still there, in their shared home, waiting for Chi Cheng to understand. With renewed determination, Chi Cheng got on his bike and raced towards Da Bao's house. The wind in his hair, he rode with a mix of hope and fear. As he approached Da Bao's house, his heart hammered in his chest. What if Da Bao had already moved on? What if he didn't want to come back? But Chi Cheng pushed these thoughts aside. He had to be strong. For Da Bao, for their love, he parked his bike and ran up the stairs. His steps were heavy, echoing the urgency in his heart. He reached Da Bao's door and hesitated for a moment, took a deep breath and knocked. And in that moment, he prayed that Da Bao would open the door. And when he did, time seemed to stand still. The world faded away, and all that mattered was the love that had brought them back together. As they embraced, Chi Cheng whispered the words he'd been longing to say, "I love you." The words were a lifeline thrown into the storm, a promise to hold on. To their love, Da Bao didn't respond verbally, but his actions spoke volumes. He held Chi Cheng close, burying his face in his chest. It was a silent acknowledgement of their bond, a silent promise to try again. They stood there for a long time, lost in each other's embrace. And as Chi Cheng held Da Bao, he knew that their love was worth fighting for.